Hey everybody, this is Pooka, and welcome to the first episode of a weekly news show, Poké Center, your home for Pokemon TCG news, tournament results, and more. In this week's episode, we will be talking about the European Challenge Cup results, upcoming state championships, some news regarding the Pokemon TCG Online, and some cool new scans of a new set from Japan. So stay tuned, it's coming up here on Poké Center. Okay, so the big news in the TCG world was the results of the recent European Challenge Cup. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, the European Challenge Cup was a tournament hosted in the Netherlands for European players. It's basically another regional championship. It has the same amount of championship points as a regional championship would, and this was a big deal because it was the first major tournament that featured the newest set, Next Destinies, and of course, when you think about Next Destinies, you think about probably the card that has had the most hype in a long time, which would be Mewtwo EX. Now, this would be the major testing ground to see just how powerful Mewtwo EX would be, and we wanted to see, would it live up to its hype? And the answer is, well, yes. Looks like Mewtwo EX is here to stay. It's not just hype. It's a very strong card. It was featured in a lot of decks, including the winning deck, which was David Boy's Celebi Mewtwo Tornadus deck, revolved around Celebi Prime, using its Forest Breath, Poké Power to just attach extra energy to either Mewtwo EX or Tornadus, and then basically you just pummel your opponent into submission with these quick, hard-hitting basics, and eventually win from there. Now, even though this was the deck that won the event, the most popular deck at the event by far was a electric Zekrom deck. It uses electric Dynamotor ability for energy acceleration and uses Zekrom, sometimes Tornadus, also Mewtwo EX as well. Just kind of the same concept as a Celebi deck, just a different form of energy acceleration. So electric was featured in 16 of the top 32 decks and 3 of the top 4 decks. So by far the most popular deck at the event, and the most successful deck at the event. Even though the Celebi deck was the winner, Electric clearly was the popular choice. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects our state championships here in the US, and really how it affects the metagame all around the world. We'll see if people adapt to the Celebi deck, since that did win. Maybe people will favor that, or if they'll stick with the Electric deck. That seems to be the popular choice at the moment. For a complete list of results in terms of decks and players, please visit our website, thetopcut.net, and we have a full list of who made the top 32, so you can see for yourself which decks were successful at the European Challenge Cup. After much disappointment and many complaints about the Pokemon TCG Online, there has been some promising news recently about a new community manager for the program. Mike Lesick, who formerly was associated with the TCG, who then moved on to help out with the Video Game Championship, who did great things there, has now signed on to help for Pokemon TCG Online, which is great news for anybody who is still planning on using that program. Mike has a great track record with improving anything he works on, so we're hoping for some big things out of Pokemon TCG Online. Hopefully some bugs get fixed, and they have released a statement saying that a new version of the game will be released, hopefully sometime soon, so we're looking forward to that, and we'll keep you posted on anything that changes with Pokemon TCG Online. Of course, us here at the Top Cut love Pokemon TCG Online. We think it's a great opportunity for the game to grow, and really something necessary for Pokemon as a whole to become a bigger and better TCG, and of course just a fun and cool way to play the game. Something that the game's sorely missing, so hopefully they could sort it out soon. Hopefully they fix all the bugs that have come up with the program, and hopefully we'll get to go back to playing that fun game that we all enjoyed when it first came out, and we can enjoy some features like playing against friends, having tournaments on there, and really just using it as a testing tool overall. So hopefully things get sorted out. Without a doubt, the news that Mike Leasick has signed on to Pokemon TCG Online to help is promising news, and we're hoping for great things from that. PokeBeach.com has released scans of some new long-awaited Dragon-type Pokemon from the new sets Dragon Blade and Dragon Blast. The two big cards in particular are Giratina EX and Rayquaza EX. Now, Giratina EX it has an attack for 3 energy, it does 90 damage, and doesn't apply any effects on the defending Pokemon. And then for 4 energy, it does 130 damage, but you have to discard the top 3 cards from your deck, so a nasty drawback. Probably the better card would be the Rayquaza EX. For 1 colorless energy, you discard the top 3 cards of your deck, and you take any energy that you discarded there and attach them to Rayquaza EX. And the big attack, for 1 fire and 1 lightning energy, you discard either all fire energy or all lightning energy, and you do 60 damage for each energy you discarded. Now, this card might seem pretty familiar to you if you played back in the day where the EX Dragon set was out, where a very similar Rayquaza EX was in the format. Of course, keeping with the trend, it had a lot less HP and does a lot less damage compared to the new Rayquaza EX. But this one will be dominant just like the other one was back in the day. At least I would think so, because the attack is very, very strong. When combined with cards like Electric or Emboar, Rayquaza EX can hit for very, very large amounts of damage, and it's definitely going to be a card that we see when that gets released. So that's some exciting news. Also, the cards have been released in a full art form as well, so those look really promising as well. So cool new news from PokeBeach.com. If you want the full translations for those cards, check out their site. They have all the information up there. State championships are coming up shortly here in the U.S. The first weekend will be this Saturday, March 10th, and it will also be the following 2 weekends. So you have 3 opportunities to play in state championships. Previously, there have only been 2 weekends for state championship. They decided to extend to 3 weeks this year. So if you're trying to chase those championship points and earn an invitation to the World Championship, here's a big opportunity to do so. Keep in mind that you combine your best 4 finishes at states and regionals, and you take the best 4 and take those and apply those to your championship point totals. So even though you can play in 5 combined states and regionals, you only get to use 4 of those results. For the most part, that shouldn't be a concern for people, but hey, maybe somebody will get really lucky and do well at all 5. So that's some big news. It'll be the first big tournaments here in the U.S. with Next Destinies. Of course, we did get to see the results from the European Challenge Cup, so we did get to see a little bit of how the format shapes up with the new set, but we'll get to see, will there be any new decks that emerge? Will Celebi, Tornadus, Mewtwo emerge as the clear-cut best deck in the format after winning the European Challenge Cup? Will it have similar results at state championships, or will other decks rise up? Electric decks clearly got a lot of popularity, or will decks not featuring Mewtwo EX at all somehow make a showing? Will Durant, a very popular deck in the US that won a lot of city championships, be successful? I guess that's something we'll have to find out here in the upcoming weeks, but be sure after the first week of state championships we will report on it, and we'll fill you in on what won and what to expect in the upcoming weeks. Alright, that'll wrap things up for this week's edition of Poké Center. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any feedback, please feel free to leave it down in the comments section of the video. Also, if you have any questions, I will be adding on a segment next week for any questions you might have next week. I'll answer a couple of those. So, if you have anything that you would like to ask me, or anything about Pokemon TCG in general, please leave a question down in the comments, and I will get to those next week. So, thank you everybody for watching. This has been Poké Center, and we'll see you next week.